Welcome to our session. This is our first breakout session of the morning, and I'm so excited and honored to be moderating it. For those of you that I have not had an opportunity to meet, my name is Zahra Billu. I am the Executive Director of CAIR's San Francisco Bay Area office. We take pride in calling ourselves CAIR's oldest local office in the country, and the largest one run by a woman. And so that's me. Today, we are going to talk about C3s, C4s, PACs, and everything in between. This weekend in California, we are urging the governor to veto legislation that would erase Palestine from classrooms. And we are up against a coalition that has taken pride in bringing together 70 pro-Israel Jewish organizations. So we said, well, we could do that with the mosques. And the mosques repeatedly said to us, wait, will we lose our C3 status if we sign this letter? And so we did a little write-up for them. But it amazed me that even in 2025, they were asking, what can we do, right? So some are mistakenly hosting presidential candidates and congressional candidates and doing these implicit endorsements, and others won't even sign the letters. And there's a lot of confusion out there about what we can do and what we can't do. And mosques and Muslim organizations are often saying, well, we need to stay in our lane and we need to stay out of politics. The other side isn't doing that. And we sometimes need to say, hey, like, what can we learn and what can we do better? We're not going to build power by staying in one lane. We're going to build power by knowing the rules of every lane and moving through them strategically.
That's right.
For too long, it's not even that we've misunderstood, we've underutilized. We've said this isn't for us. We're just here to pray and wear our hijabs and grow our beards, and can we fast in Ramadan? But that's good, that's all we need. And one of the speakers on an earlier panel said everything about our existence has been politicized. 501c3s, which is what most of us have, allow us to educate and mobilize. C4s allow us to lobby more boldly and directly. And PACs are how we put our money where our mouth is. Today's conversation is going to be about stripping away the mystery, naming the opportunities and the limitations, and asking, what happens when we use all of these tools together? Our opponents are already doing this. I know we can do it better. And if we want to win, we cannot afford to play with one hand tied behind our back. Today, I'm honored to share the stage with brothers and sisters, friends, heroes, and sheroes, and I'll start with Dr. Osama Abu Arshid. I'll say a little bit about them, and then I'm going to ask them a question that'll give them the opportunity to introduce themselves and tell us more about their perspective on this. Dr. Osama is the Executive Director of American Muslims for Palestine, a leading voice advancing education and advocacy for Palestinian human rights right here in the United States. Next to Dr. Osama is Dilara Sayed, the Executive Director of Muslim Civic Action, focused on mobilizing Muslim communities towards civic participation and policy influence. Next to her is my brother Bassem Al-Kara, the Executive Director of CAIR Action, working to build Muslim political power through civic engagement and legislative advocacy. And then next to me is Linda Sarsour, the Executive Director of Empower Change, the largest Muslim-led digital organizing platform in the country. Brothers and sisters, and to make it interesting, I'll let you go in whichever order you want. Here's my opening question. Each of your organizations operates in a different lane, and some of you operate in multiple lanes, C3s, C4s, and PACs. They all have their strengths and limitations. To start us off, can you briefly introduce your work and then share why is it important for Muslim communities to use the full spectrum of these tools, and what becomes possible when we coordinate across them?
جزاك الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. The problem, I'm not the only Palestinian on the stage. Otherwise, I would have said it makes sense that I start, but I'm not. You know, when we started AMP in 2006, there was a void in terms of the work for Palestine in our community. I think think many of you know or maybe witnessed the post 9/11 era, the government focused its attacks and prosecution on the Palestinian work here in America. As if the government wasn't fighting Al-Qaeda, it was fighting the Palestinians. And I think this told us from the beginning that the Israeli influence in America is far more greater than what we anticipated at the time, and now we are seeing the evidence here. So after 9/11, I still remember at that time that many of our Muslim organizations didn't want to touch Palestine. They wanted to stay away from Palestine. And there were people who were saying at the time that we need to focus locally and forget about Palestine because Palestine will invite problems and trouble to our community. So that's when we started AMP at the time, because we felt that the community was, trying to distance itself from Palestine. From that point on, alhamdulillah, in 2015, when we opened our office in DC, I think that's when we recognized that there is a broader solidarity movement, intersectional movement for Palestine in the US. And things were shifting, but maybe we weren't paying attention. We were still, in that mentality of exclusion, maybe that mentality of these virtual ghettos that we live in, that we're talking to one another, preaching to the choir, trying to convince ourselves of what we are all convinced about. So when we started this work, suddenly you started seeing the shifts that are taking place in America and that we weren't paying attention to. I would say that the focus on advocacy and raising awareness is essential for us here in America. And I will give you one example. In 2017, early 2017, Gallup issued a study in which it analyzed all of its public opinion polls in relation to Palestine/Israel between 2010 and the end of 2016. And the bottom line of that analysis was the more Americans learn about Israel, the less they like it. Now, if you pass forward to 2025, we just recently had several public opinion polls that suggest that Israel's favorability in America is declining. Now, 54% of the American people views Israel unfavorably. Within Democrats, 79%. Within Republican, now we see the split and we see the cracks. So we should never undermine this raising awareness work, and we should never undermine the advocacy work that we're doing, and we should never question our ability to change the dynamics and to seize on them. So AGP Action that was formed, which is our C4 that was formed in 2020, is we wanted to marry both the raising awareness mobilization with that more accessibility to doing advocacy work and trying to impact and lobby for Palestine. So AMP started to fill this void, and now, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, I would say AMP is one of the leading voices. And when I say AMP, by the way, I say AMP, which represents the Muslim community. Because AMP doesn't get major grants. We get most 99% of our money from our community, from average donors. We don't get it from institutions, because I'm not accusing any big firms or anything of Islamophobic tendencies, but there is that fear. You give AMP, and then you might come get a visit by the FBI. But although I disagree with this, that's what made us go back to our community, the average donor, because everyone shares the same burden. If you look at many of us here, many of them are not Palestinians, but they're wearing the Palestinian scarf, the hatta. Palestine unified the community. Gaza unified the community. We should never question the ability. We owe Palestine. Palestine doesn't owe us. Gaza, we owe Gaza. Gaza doesn't owe us.
That's right.
When I look at our community now, when you go to the community, you see that it's not only Palestinian youth who are going after normalizers within our community in the name of interfaith. It's non-Palestinians who are leading the charge. Non-Palestinian who are questioning and calling to account their leadership or local leadership or national leadership when it comes to normalizing with the enemy or trying to diminish the cause of Palestine. I won't claim credit as AMP, but I would say that we're part of this credit. And AMP is part of this credit because we're collectively part of this credit. And alhamdulillah, I see now the trajectory is going upward, it's not going downward. And we should see the potential, not only focus on the present or the past. The past belonged to them. Now we're contesting the present. You know, if you look at the public opinion polls, we are winning in this domain. The reason why they're trying to repress, the reason why they're trying to silence us, the reason why they're accusing anyone who dares to question Israel as anti-Semitic is because they cannot win the debate on its merits anymore. So the only way is to go after Mahmoud Khalil and to go after Dr. Badr and others to question, accuse them of anti-Semitism, accuse them of foreign connections, accuse them of being extensions and terrorism sympathizers, because they cannot win the argument. When you have a public opinion poll, recent one, 60% of the American youth view Hamas more favorably than Israel. Now, again, regardless of what you think of Hamas, that's not my issue. But this is an organization that is demonized in America. This is an organization that is designated as a terrorist organization in America, and still they cannot win that against that organization in the public opinion domain. Imagine how is it going to be for them going against the Palestinian narrative here in America. But the issue is, do we believe in our ability to change the dynamics in America? And do we believe in our ability to triumph and to diminish their influence that is brought to question now? Because if you're an American firster, you cannot be an Israeli firster. And now we're not the ones who are saying this. It's others who are saying it, even within the MAGA.
Thank you, Dr. Osama.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Dilara Saeed. I'm a Chicago kid. Our family has lived and is buried across the United States, 5 generations of us. I come to this work as an 8th grade US history and government teacher in the public school system. Alhamdulillah. But throughout my 20 years in the education sector, from teacher through administrator, through chief education officer of a system, I didn't see my story in any curriculum. I only saw your story when it was a stereotype. We were invisible in that story. And this is why I come to the civic work. We can call it political. I see politics as a means to an end. I see the work being changing civic society so that all Americans can thrive. Changing civic society so that Americans can live side by side with all citizens of the world so that we can all thrive. And that's the work that we all do together in many different ways. The Muslim Civic Coalition is a family of 2 orgs. The Muslim Civic Coalition, which is a 501c3, it's about 80% of our work. And the Muslim Civic Coalition Activate, which is a 501c4, which does a different type of work, complementary to the first, but with a different board, a different governance, a different fiscal and financial structure, and sometimes a different team. We have some of our board members and volunteers here, and I want to say that again, as Brother Osama said, we are all a team on this. So how does a C3 and a C4 work together? So I'll talk about our scope and show you how the C3 and C4s complement. In the C3, we work on voter education towards voter turnout. We want every single community member, as well as our allies, to go to the polls and pull a ballot. Whatever you decide to do with that ballot, submit a ballot. That's our C3. Our C4 tells you who to vote for on that ballot, which the C3 cannot. In advocacy, our 501c3, the coalition, identifies issues our communities are dealing with. We find sponsors in the legislation, whether it's at the local level in a city council, at the state level, or at the federal level, who will help sponsor, those bills, because it takes a legislator to get that bill into law. And then we work with community advocates and everyone else who wants to pass this bill, and we lobby for it in our C4. So the C3 identifies the issue, creates the bill, gets the sponsors, the C4 will lobby. A little bit of the C3 can lobby, but definitely all of the C4 can lobby. And then the third piece is leadership capacity development. Right now, we have 40 fellows that are going through our civic leadership with 7 modules that cover everything from community organizing to running for office to actually how do you make ends meet when you're doing policy work when it's not really what your parents were hoping you would do. The C4 takes a few of those C3 fellows who now want to run for office and preps them, prepares them, and then we work with PACs to fund them and support them. We're not a PAC. We don't need to be. And we're a tiny little organization that doesn't have the capacity to do all 3. But this is where, again, working together in alignment with every organization that, alhamdulillah, is represented here in this weekend's CAIR conference. We're doing this across the nation. We're getting better at it every year. And alhamdulillah, we're making the change. I want to give one example of what's the impact. So, okay, I talked to you about what a C3 does, what a C4 does, how we work it in our organizations. What's the impact? Alhamdulillah, I wish we didn't even need it. But tomorrow is the nation's first Wadea Day. Make dua for him, his family, and for us. When we talk about political assassinations, we hear about the horrific different assassinations that have happened. I want to hear more that the first assassination on American soil since October 2023 was a 6-year-old little boy named Wadea al-Fayoumi. He was killed because he was Muslim and he was Palestinian. He was stabbed by his neighbor, his landlord, and the man who used to play with him in the backyard, who had become radicalized by what he'd been hearing leaders swarming and talking about across this nation. That was our first political assassination since October 2023. So we got to work because it happened to be in my backyard, in our backyard in Illinois. Since October 2023, we were able to, 1, have a historic congressional hearing against hate, and it was sponsored by Senator Dick Durbin of the Judiciary Committee in Congress. We were able to have a unanimous passing. Do you know that we have a Wadea resolution unanimously passed by the US Senate? Number 3, we were then able to bring it home and pass in Illinois a Wadea resolution. And we were able to name September 21st Wadea Day. It is also World Children's Peace Day. This happened, alhamdulillah, takbir, for all of us who worked on this. This happened because C3s worked with C4s, and together they were able to not only identify what we needed to do, but then lobby to do it. And this couldn't have happened unless we had called Abed Ayoub of ADC and said, Abed, we're doing this, what can you do to help? And he was, anything you need, was Abed's response. I will never forget that. Anything you need. It wouldn't have happened without CAIR when Robert made sure that everybody in the nation knew about Wadea Day as we passed it. And so when simultaneously tomorrow, please go on our website, MuslimCivicCoalition.org, click on Wadea Social Kit. Tomorrow, we should all blanket the country talking about Wadea al-Fayoumi. Because if we don't talk about it, some of our allies won't know about it. But if we talk about it, our allies will amplify it, and everyone will hear about it, inshallah. But this is the work of alignment across different types of IRS categories, C3, C4, and then anytime we need them, the PACs are here for us, inshallah.
بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Assalamu alaikum. Bassem Al-Kar with CAIR Action. So in 2004, I moved from San Francisco to Sacramento. And for me, Sacramento was the capital city of the most powerful state and the most powerful country. And I said, if we can unite the community, the Muslim community around the state capital, build power there, we can have national impact. And so around that time, so I started working for the C3. And at that time, Hussam Elush, right there, helped start a PAC in Southern California. And this is a time when Agha Saeed, and may Allah have mercy on him, who was a pillar of our political organizing at a national level. And if folks remember, our brother Agha Saeed with American Muslim Alliance used to do the endorsement guide in California and also nationally. And so around that time, I think it was around that time, they stopped doing it, and then the PAC started doing the endorsement work. And I'll never forget it. I was outside of a masjid on the sidewalk outside, right? You could be outside. And I was passing out this endorsement guide in my volunteer capacity, not during work hours, during a lunch break. And so someone looks at the guide, and he says, you know, CAIR, California PAC, and he gets very upset. He says, what took you guys so long? What took you guys so long? 5 votes in our household? We've never voted before, and now we're going to vote. And then we saw in California, if you look in California, if you look at the voter turnout in the Muslim community, it's almost 10 percentage points higher than anywhere else in the country because of that endorsement guide. And it's almost done by county, down ballot from school board on up, right? So that's what builds power. Now, can I go step back? I wanted to show a slide, but I've been told, I don't know if I can, but I was going to show a slide to make you visualize the C3, C4, PAC, and Super PAC in one slide, and the arrows, how they're connected and all that. I guess they're not putting it up. But, okay, you know, visualize it. She's C3. Zahra right here is C3. Linda is Super PAC, okay? And I guess you'll be C4, and I'll be the coordinator PAC. And so you're PAC. You're C4 too. So I'll tell you, like, the power on the C3 side, the C3 is our foundation. C3 is our foundation. You have to have a strong C3. And in the CAIR world, that's civil rights, immigration, the legal protections with advocacy, right? And the successes that they've had over the years is what led to building power on the political side, right? So in California, I don't know how many attorneys y'all have now, over 20? Oh, over 20 attorneys in California, right? 130 staff. But why? How did they get to 130 staff in California? The politics also helped out. As we build more political power, folks got appointments. Those appointments opened up doors to foundation funding, state funding. Now, CAIR California, they are funding partner organizations in the tune of millions of dollars. Even Masajid, other Muslim organizations, right? I know it was a 2-year span, I think tail end of COVID, CAIR California subgranted over $10 million. And now they're going to subgrant over $20 million. And so that's power. So it's when they're all working together, connected, you build that power. So C3, right? On the C3 side, they passed legislation. They passed 2 school bullying bills, protecting prisoner rights. Mashallah, state employees taking a day off, students taking a day off. Every year, mashallah, their team passes legislation. Now, there's sometimes we've also had challenges, right? We've had challenges as well. So that's where the C4 comes in, because eventually, this is a natural progression for any organization. People say, why is CAIR doing political work? I was like, we've been doing political work in California, and now we're just taking a national. But this is a natural progression for any organization. ACLU Action, NAACP, and then they start a C4, SHIRLA, and all our partner organizations, when they have the resources, they launched C4 entities, okay? So when we did that, it just has so much. When you go meet an elected official and you're lobbying them, and they know you can endorse them, and you can oppose them, and you can defeat them, right? It's a whole different power dynamic now. And so we must, as a community, have this infrastructure. And now, what the cool thing about this structure is that I can communicate with Zahra. I can communicate with their team. The C4 and the C3 can actually have a cost-sharing agreement. And here's a good case study. Samiha, can you wave to everyone? You know, I put her on the spot. Samiha is a big troublemaker out of Texas. She's 50% C3, CAIR Texas, and 50% CAIR Action Texas. This sister right here helped pass bills, defeat bills, amend bills in Texas. In Texas, there was bills that she got First Amendment protections in them. And here's another thing too. There was a bill, unwelcome care, from the state capitol, okay? It took one phone call to a Republican member who was under pressure to introduce it, and he killed the bill. So I'm just telling you, there's power. This one sister, what she did in Texas of all places, it shows you that this strategy, when you share staff, it works. Both sides save, and mashallah. So may Allah bless you. You're a superhero and an example of what can be done in other parts. Now, real quick, the PAC. So Zahra can communicate with the PAC. So you have CAIR Action and you have CAIR Action PAC. It's what's called a separate segregated fund. And so it's connected to the C4. She can't communicate with the PAC, but she can communicate with the C4. And so we can work together on anything C3 related, right? General advocacy. She can't touch the endorsement side, but everything else is at play. The educational work, the lobbying, the advocacy work is all we can communicate, we can strategize together and all that. So, and then there's a line between the C4 and the coordinated PAC, right? So we can endorse, and then the coordinated PAC can raise money for those candidates. The other last thing is the super PAC, Linda. Linda's the super PAC, okay? There's no line between the super PAC and any other entity, okay? There's no line, there's no connection, but that endorsed super PAC is the one that spends money to do the TV ads, mailers, and the expenditures, right? And the super PACs is what win elections. Because they're called independent expenditures, that they're not coordinating with a candidate, they can raise unlimited funds and spend unlimited funds. And that is the key to victory around the country. And I'll tell you right now, this model has worked. Last year in Southern California, and mashallah, Hussam's friends, folks so Linda, a few years ago, Linda went to Southern California, helped launch a program called MCAN. It's an organizing program from CAIR Los Angeles on the C3 side. The graduates of that program ran field for Derek Tran. Who's Derek Tran? Derek Tran ran against Michelle Steele. It was the most expensive congressional House race in U.S. history. $50 million race. A $50 million race. He was Michelle Steele, they call her the AIPAC sweetheart. Her husband is on the AIPAC board. The organizers ran field. The super PAC did the independent expenditures, and that combination defeated AIPAC by 653 votes. And so, right here in Maryland, Angela Alsobrooks, right? The first black woman to be elected to the U.S. Senate, defeated AIPAC in the primary and the general election. Fast forward to this year, municipal elections in Illinois. In Illinois, CAIR Action endorsed 40 candidates, 19 of them won, 17 of them were Muslim. Again, 19 candidates won, 17 were Muslim. How did we deliver that? 30 canvassers. 30 paid canvassers plus a bunch of volunteers. So you see, when there's a trusted entity that folks know, right? CAIR, they don't know the difference between any PAC actions. But this is an organization that protects our rights, that we've known for 30 years, right? So when they see an endorsement, or you knock on someone's door, or you phone bank, what happens? They'll turn out. And so those 30 canvassers delivered those victories, and I think we lost one race by 71 votes. So imagine if we hired 50 canvassers, right? So I'll stop there, and I'm sure we'll continue.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm going to run through quick my affiliations, because I think folks here already explained C3, C4 as best as possible. I think Dilar did a great job, and Bassem kind of showing you the connections of these organizations, who can communicate, who can't. So I'm the co-founder and executive director of Empower Change. Empower Change basically is like the Muslim version of MoveOn.org. About a decade ago, I brought some Muslim organizers together, and I was like, what's missing in our community? And what was missing is a progressive online voice on issues like immigration, issues around climate, issues around just foreign policy. We just didn't have an online voice. So I built a digital platform that is a petition platform, and one that also can target CEOs, corporations. It can target local city council members. I can help you start a campaign in your community where people can send letters directly to members of Congress, so that people are actually seeing us. Our platform is not spam, so some of folks do these platforms, but they go into a spam folder. We pay for a very high-level subscription that makes sure those emails actually get into your member of Congress's office or city council, et cetera. I also founded Empower Action Fund, which is our C4. We've been doing political work for a long time. Our C4 has been around for over 8 years. Empower Change has a particular role to play in the Muslim American community, which is that our job is to be the people that sit at the tables, because a lot of times Muslim American organizations are doing the work in the Muslim community, which is very important, but we sit on climate justice coalitions, we sit on racial justice coalitions. We are on a lot of tables where sometimes we are the only Muslim American organization on a national level that is working in these key issue areas. So I'm gonna put that all to the side. I want to say some things here in this room because this is an important room of people who are involved in different organizations. Most of the people in this room are here because you are an organizer, an advocate, you have an organization. So that's why you're at this table. You are a leader of a masjid, you're on a board. So let me put some things on the table here. This is an example of people in our community that know what they're doing. But there are people in our community that don't know what they're doing. And every day somebody gets up in your community and says they started a PAC and they started a C4. And you have to start asking some questions. What are your credentials? Have you ever run a PAC before? Do you even know what an independent expenditure looks like? Do you know how to reserve television ads? Do you know how to create content? I am so tired of people in our community who know nothing, who are starting things in our community, wasting resources, creating confusion and chaos in our community. And you have to start holding these people accountable in our community. So that's one. I play in a lot of PAC spaces. I'm not going to name PACs that I'm a part of, because the point of being part of a PAC is not for you to go on a mic or go into the newspapers and tell people that you're part of a PAC. The point of a PAC is to build power, is to execute your deliverables about taking, for example, defeating pro-genocide members of Congress, or even in the state legislature. So I'm not out here to be like, Linda Sarsour is part of all these PACs. I know what PACs I'm a part of. That's all I need to know. As long as I know, you don't gotta know what kind of PACs I'm a part of. Let's just say the PACs that I'm a part of are winning races and gonna make a lot of history in this upcoming elections. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. The other thing that I do oftentimes is I talk to people all around the country. Every day some guy or sister in your community gets up and says, oh, I'm running for office, I'm gonna do this big thing. No, we're not doing that anymore, sisters and brothers. Just because you could run for office don't mean you should run for office. There has to be some parameters that we create in our community, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because we don't have money to waste. We have wasted so much money as a community on people that have no shot in hell of winning, and I'm tired of it. Just because your politics are good doesn't mean you're gonna be a good politician, right? I could have been a politician a long time ago if I wanted to, but I have a skill set that I wanna use somewhere else. And so we as a community gotta start asking anymore. Don't tell me your cousin, your uncle, this kid, mashallah, Sister Linda, this young man, he's so good. That doesn't mean that he should go to Congress, especially someone that's never held a political office before. And I'm saying all of this to say is because we are coming up on a very important election year, and many of you hear me say this all the time. This is an actual important election year, because we've only been 9 months into this administration, and what you need to do right now is we gotta flip this Congress, just so that at the minimum, we are a block to this administration legislatively until, inshallah, we figure out how to do something different than what we have right now. So we got no time to play around, no time for egos, no time to waste money on 2026 races where people are just telling me this is a good candidate just because you like him and he's a nice guy. A lot of people are nice people, but they don't all belong in Congress. They don't all belong in the governor's house. They don't all belong in places. And if you have a candidate in your community that is running, please call me. And I'm going to tell you, based on data and polling and patterns of voting in that district, demographics of that district, whether or not your candidate actually has a shot. I'm not gonna call out names in this room, but some of you have put some money on some big losers. And you just did it because you were like, mashallah, he's Muslim, Sister Linda, he was really good. Or he was half Palestinian. That's why I supported him. On my account, and I speak on behalf of Palestinian Americans everywhere, don't support candidates just because they're Palestinians. You support them because they're good, and because they have credentials, and they have track records, and they could win races. So I'm saying this all to you, guidelines. Follow experts in our community. I'm gonna bring you over here. We're in 2025. And everybody's saying bad things are happening. You heard the lawyers, they're kidnapping the people, they're doing all the things. God knows what's gonna happen to some of us in this room. Part of it was because in 2024, people in our community didn't wanna listen to the experts. You were listening to people on the internet, people who had big platforms that never engaged in politics ever. But because somebody told you to be mad at genocide and told you what to do with the rage you had about genocide and actually thought that we're now in a better place. MashaAllah, you ended a genocide and because of your choices that you made in 2024. Sisters and brothers, there are people in our community that have built their credentials. They have a proven track record to you. You know what they know and you know how they got here. So why would you be listening to some people who woke up one morning and started telling you, vote this way, vote that way? But Sister Linda, whatever she says, let's put that to the side. But this guy right here, this man that's got a little started an Instagram account, we're going to listen to him. Oh, Sister Linda, we're going to do third party. What did you do for the third party? When were you ever involved in a third party? Have you ever registered people for a third party before? Have you ever worked within a third party? All of a sudden, mashallah, in 2024, everybody was like, Sister Linda, we're doing third party. What did the third party do for you? What relationship did you have with that third party? And here we are now reaping what we kind of sowed. Part of us. We're not the only ones. Let's be clear. This is not a Muslim, Arab, Palestinian problem. But people who often, one last thing that I'm going to say too about our community as we get into 2026. Sometimes the Muslims can be very selfish. And that is not inherent to our nature and who we're supposed to be. And shame on us when we only think about ourselves and don't think about our neighbors. So for example, we have Muslims in our community who will tell you, we will not support this candidate because we don't agree with them on one issue. You agree with them on 9 issues, but you don't agree with them on one issue. So you're willing to throw the baby out with the bathwater because you're so selfish because you don't agree with a candidate on one issue. Sisters and brothers, shame on us as a community. When you're watching our immigrant neighbors getting snatched up off the street because you care about this one issue that the politician doesn't care. This is not how it's going to work, sister. Or you don't want to vote for someone because of X reason, but then the opposition is saying we're going to kidnap the immigrants, we're going to defund the hospitals, we're going to defund public education, we're going to do all these bad things, but because you're so self-righteous and you don't agree with the politician on one issue, you're willing to sacrifice that moment and sacrifice your neighbors. Sisters and brothers, that is not who we are as Muslims. Justice is not just us. And I say that to you as a Palestinian watching a genocide, that you better believe I care about my immigrant neighbors. I don't want to see. Sisters and brothers, I have 2 mothers in my ear at night. 2 mothers. One is a mother in Gaza crying for her children, and one is an immigrant mother at 26 Federal Plaza that goes to her appointment, and ICE agents grab her while she has a stroller and screaming for her children. Those are the 2 mothers that move me every single day. So you all better get it together. And the way that we're going to get it together is we're going to coordinate. And we're going to organize together whether you like it or not because the people of Gaza deserve that. And our neighbors in this country deserve that. No more egos, no more, I want to be the president, I want to be the chair. And I said this yesterday, I'll be the janitor. I don't care. This title thing that we do in the Muslim community, you're learning that from the monarchies in the Muslim countries and then the Arab dictatorships. We don't do that here in this country. That's not why our families came to this country. We came to do democracy, to participate, to use our Islamic values of taking care of the most marginalized people in this country. Our job as Muslims is to alleviate poverty, is to feed our neighbors. So you could preach and pray at the masjid all you want, but if you're not actually taking your faith to your communities and making sure your neighbors' lives are better, then you're not doing Islam right. Lastly, I'll say this to the masajid. We have some of the most cowardly people in our community who follow a faith full of warriors and courageous people, including our beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him. Speak truth to power is what our faith teaches us, right? To speak up against injustice, even if it's against our own parents. But then you'll have an imam at the masjid telling us, Sister Linda, we don't do politics here. Habibi, if you woke up this morning and you are Muslim and you're breathing, you're political whether you like it or not, my friend. And so if you go to a masjid that doesn't want to talk about Gaza, that doesn't let volunteers put up a voter registration table, you are the constituents of that message. It doesn't belong to the imams or the boards of those masjids. So you either tell the people at the masjid to get themselves together to defend our people, or you take yourself and go pray at another masjid that actually is doing Islam the right way.
I will say that despite the fears of the masajid in California, now more than 100 of them have signed on to our letters.
Congratulations
So
to them.
I just want to yes, she's right, and not California. We're special.
Not all of the ones in California, but yes, those 100,
The ones we know.
mashallah.
I just spent a week at a retreat where we've been talking about the next 7 generations of this work. And it's so important that we're looking at the next 18 months, but also that we're thinking of the next 7 generations. And so with that context in mind, without making it an endorsement that will have the IRS run in and rush the stage, would each of you share one race that you are following closely that is so important to you over the next 18 months? A different race each. So if you all say the same one, it doesn't work. Any volunteers to go first? Which race is really important to you?
Human race.
But yes.
That's a good one. That's a
which
good one.
political race? Which election?
You know, I would say on a personal level, I'm trying to help Summer Lee from Pennsylvania because she is being targeted now by AIPAC. And, you know, a lot of points that were raised here. I know we have the tools as the community. We have the expertise. We have the talent. We have the organizations. But the problem, we're not resonating and we're not reaching out to our community. Yes, there are cowards within our community. There are those who are completely devoid, disconnected from the reality in America, and they don't understand how America works, and they want to dictate to you how to work in America. You know, I was in, I know someone is going to get upset. I was in a major city where I was invited to give the khutbah there, but Atlanta, khalas. But then the masjid says no politics. Talk about shaitan. Don't talk about Zionists, because the enemy is shaitan. Talk about self-purification. Don't talk about Gaza. Look, these are the minority within our community now. If you go and poll the community itself, they would maybe disapprove of their so-called leadership. The problem, we're not reaching out, and we're not connecting. And the community needs to know that these resources are there. Need to know, you know, that when you support members like Summer Lee and you make sure that she's not defeated, that you are investing in your future in America. Not only in terms of Palestine now. This is, yes, for me, Palestine is the cause that rallied us, that maybe mobilized us as a community. I didn't see it right after 9/11. The community were in a total fear. Now the community is different. You know, AMP has maybe, I think, 16, 17 lawsuits against us. As an individual, I have 5 or 6, 16. I have maybe 5 or 6 lawsuits against me, you know. But, you know, I don't see that this is deterring us. So I would say, instead of us continue to forecast failure and to predict failure, no, this is the time to forecast success and to invest in our success as a community. If you're fearful and if you're trying to hide under the rug, they will just smush you under the rug. That's what they're going to do to you. It's a cockroach. They will just walk all over you, and that's your fate.
لا cockroach يا زلمة وقاعدة صرصورة معاك على الستيج
أنا ما
يا
بخافش
زلمة.
منهم يعني. So I'm fine يعني. I'm fine with
Okay, so we have Summer Lee.
So Summer Lee, and you know, I've been trying to reach out to members in our community. One point. When you tell them give to a candidate, someone who stands with us, people are hesitant. They're not worried about the post sister. They don't care whether she has a potential or not. They're worried about whether this qualifies to be a zakah or not. Wallahi al-azim, I'm telling you the truth. Wallahi, they come and ask me the question, is this eligible for zakah? Come on. You know, we go for AMP, it's easy to get a fundraiser because it's tax exempted. You go for AGP Action, Americans for Justice in Palestine Action, which is a C4, is it tax deductible? Yeah, he consider it to be the zakah on zakah. It makes it much easier for me to do my work, and it makes it much easier for me to go and give to a candidate for the PACs. وَفِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. And when you bring the fatwas from scholars, that a scholar said, no, you can give your zakah, it's zakah eligible. But even if it's not a zakah eligible, you want to empower Muslims, you want to empower justice, you want to protect your kids in this country. If we don't have allies, if we continue to give $50,000 and $100,000 checks to relief organizations, well, I'm not saying don't give to relief organizations, but you give to relief organizations, you send money to Gaza, you send food to Gaza, it's rotten on both sides of the border, and nothing gets in because we don't have the political power and the political muscle in America. And when you say we need to support our viable candidates, people are worried about their zakah. But to put your zakah into waste is fine. It's fine. You go to the masajid, we're having the same problem. So I would say, listen, wallahi, every one of us should feel that sense of responsibility, that there is now, we're before now, I would say a future for us where either we ascend or we descend. Either we change the dynamics and not to continue to talk about the shifts in public opinion polls, but to talk in the public opinion domain, but to talk about how do we translate that into policy. If you don't support CAIR Action or Empower or Sister
Muslim Civic Coalition and
Muslim
Dr.
Civic
Osama,
Coalition.
we're going to let Muslim Civic Coalition
Yeah.
tell us the race they're
If you
following.
don't support them, I don't know how things are going to change. So don't worry about your zakah, give a zakah on the zakah, and let us change this because we can, and this is the moment for it. Otherwise, in 10 years, our children will be cursing us.
And before Muslim Civic Coalition goes, I want to just note a point. He said, give the money to the relief organizations. I'm telling you. You said, I'm not telling you not to.
Yeah,
and I want to go, so I want to go one step further. About 10 years ago, when I first learned of AMP, I made a decision to split my donations, right? So if you only have $100,000 to give, which mashallah, split it. So 50 to the relief organizations and 50 domestically to the organizations on this stage that are doing this work. If you have 50,000, split it. If you have 500, split it, because when we're sending money abroad, we're just putting a Band-Aid on the problem.
That's right.
When we're funding these organizations and this work, we're actually getting to the root cause. And so I know a lot of us hesitate to say the relief organizations or don't to the relief organizations, or how do we talk about this? I'll tell you that my personal decision has been whatever I'm sending abroad, I am matching here to these organizations, because otherwise we will just be sending money abroad for 7 generations.
That's right.
We need to plant the seeds, we need to cast the stones so that in 7 generations we are not still trying to just get clean water and safety in these places that we love. And so, Dilara, tell us, which race?
Actually, I'm going to answer
Okay.
what you just said. Less than 9% of American Muslims give to civic organizations. Less than 9%. We don't, I mean, I know there's a lot of crises in the world. I also know we are not a poor community. So
Not by
please
any
do
means.
not think that and do not purport that. We are, alhamdulillah, a wealthy community. More non-resident Indians give back to India than any other kind of nation in the country, in the world. So we have money. The Arab communities, the black communities, the immigrant
Cybertruck
communities,
owners.
the Asian communities, exactly. And so please, 9% can't be where we sit. Okay, our goal, every single one of us, should be to go home and say 9% of our dollars are going to Muslim civic organizations. Can we make that 20% in 2025 before we end 2025? Inshallah. Say inshallah.
Inshallah.
Because then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help us with that. And you know what? When we give more, tell me this has not happened to every single one of you. When we give more, what happens?
Allah gives us more.
We get more. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala finds a way to give us more. So no excuses. This is our moment. This is the watershed point. Two things happened, I think, that are watershed points. I think George Floyd happened, and I think Gaza happened.
That's right.
George Floyd happened, and we all walked with our allies, and the prosecutor of George Floyd's murderer was an American Muslim man, our brother, right? The Attorney General of Minnesota, Keith Ellison. What happened in Gaza brought all kinds of communities together. You know, I talked earlier about the Wadea Day and how we got help from CAIR and ADC and et cetera. Can I tell you how much help we got from Code Pink? Can I tell you how much help we got from JVP? Can I tell you how much help I got from Rainbow
Shout out.
Push? All kinds of allies stepped up to help us do this work. So then what is the race we're looking for? I'm also going to go personal. Illinois has the largest per capita Muslim population in the nation. Yeah, New York?
We're just a little more spread out.
And New Jersey, New York, they're just second, third. But you're more likely to meet, you know, a doctor, an IT worker, a refugee, an Uber driver who's Muslim in Illinois than any other state. Illinois in 2026, 20% of our congressional seats, 20% almost, are up for open seats in Illinois. We're watching all of those congressional seats in Illinois because it will change the face of how Illinois works, but it will also help change the face of potentially Congress. And I'm looking at the Senate seat. The US Senate. Senator Dick Durbin, 30 years ago, was the first AIPAC candidate. AIPAC's test case was Dick Durbin. He became the US Senator. Since then, he has gone up and down and fluctuated on different justice points, sometimes our friends, sometimes not so much. In the last year, I think he got God, because he has been better than he's ever been on the issues that we care about. I think he also knew he was going to retire. So let's have them get God and get us before they have to think about their retirement. Let's get them at the start of their career at the US Senate. We have a chance now. Here in this case, there's not a Muslim candidate, and like we all said, that doesn't bother us. Let's move on. Let's get the right candidate. There isn't someone we can fund and win this race. You know, we talked about a $50 million race. This is already a $20+ million race, and it's a year to the election. We will get to probably about 40, 50 million on this one. Like, we can take place bets.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big race. In it, we have a very strong candidate supported by Hindutva. In it, we have a very strong candidate supported by AIPAC. In it, we have a candidate who's kind of on the right track, but she doesn't have the courage to say what she knows she has to say, and what she knows is the right thing to say. So in this race, sometimes I'm not even looking at getting the right person to win. We talked about that, but we're also looking at the right person to get to neutral. The right person to get to where they will listen to us and listen to the other side and hopefully have the courage to do the right thing. That, I consider us a win at the US Senate if we can get to that as well. So yes, we want the winning candidate, but sometimes we want the candidate that we can influence towards justice and towards neutral when it comes to AIPAC, Hindutva, and white supremacy, which I believe are the three evils of America that we all must fight. Hindutva, Zionism supremacy, and white supremacy.
That's right.
Look for any race where those
Thank you,
three are in
Dora.
play and work for that race. So you don't have to work for this race, but look for any race where those three are at play, find that race, it's there in your town, and then fight that race for all of us.
Thank you, Delara.
So when we started since last year, we took positions on 1,600 candidates. So I can't say one race, but some mayoral races are really important, hint, hint. But for us, we are looking at Proposition 50 in California to disrupt what's happening in Texas. We're also looking to disrupt what's happening in Texas. So right now with the redistricting, Muslims will lose power in Texas. like Epic. You guys all hear of Epic? It was, I think, Congressional District 32. It's now going to be, it was a Democratic district. Many of the Muslims are registered Democrats. Now it's a Republican district. But we have some plans, and it's going to turn this policy on Abbott's head. And Abbott, doesn't like CAIR, but something.
Nah.
He doesn't like CAIR, but because we sue him and we win every time. So congrats to CAIR National. 4 lawsuits against them. 2, they've won 2 already. So for us, it's at municipal, local, state, and federal levels, and we are focusing on all 3 going into into next year. And but we have a lot. Last November, 20 races, 20 congressional races were within 5 percentage points. 5 percentage points. So it means they're at play for our community. But by the way, our Endorse Super PAC doesn't just target Muslims. No, and actually some cases it'll target just some Muslims that are likely voters, and focus on other communities that actually vote. And so we do that, but now we're working to increase the voter turnout of our community. The Latino community used to be at 30%, now it's at 70%. That's why they're winning seats all around the country. And inshallah, we'll get there very soon, inshallah. From 54, we hover between 54 to 58. Inshallah, we'll get to 70 soon, inshallah.
Is there not one specific race you want to make sure everyone in this room knows about?
And look, there is one, but I'm going to hand it off to our dear sister.
So if you know which one she's going to say, I'm still giving you an opportunity to say one more.
Look, there's...
But I say that because we leave these conversations a lot of times with, we've talked about theory and we've talked about structure, but we haven't gotten down to practice, right? And so Dr. Osama said Summer Lee's race, and Delara said Dick Durbin's seat. And I want everyone in this room to leave with 4 races to follow.
Donovan McKinney in Michigan is a race that many of us are looking at. Hey, look, Linda, mashallah, she's way ahead of the curve. She'll tell us about a race like Mamdani like a year in advance. And so when she brought Donovan McKinney's race to us, we've been already working on it. So that's going to be a very important race, and there's many races like that. There's also a bunch in Illinois.
Just one. How did you go
Donovan
from none to more than one? Donovan McKinney in Michigan.
Now the moment y'all been waiting for. I'll turn it over to my dear sister, Linda.
So just so folks are a little more specific, Donovan McKinney against Sri Thanadar, who is a Hindutva AIPAC guy in Michigan, who should have never, I don't even know how that guy. We don't know either. He's another guy that when they say anything's possible, he's like that's why people think anyone can run, because they see Donald Trump and Sri Thanadar, and they're like, we can all do this. So you already know that's why Bassem passed this to me, and I think it's another indication of following people who know what they're doing and understand, because they've seen and they've looked at the demographics, they know where our communities can have impact. Over a year ago, when I called some in this room, I'm gonna close my eyes because I don't wanna look at you. I called people about Zahran Mamdani, a Queens Assembly member, a Gujarati Indian Muslim young man who's pro-boycott, divestment, pro-Palestine, was outside. This kid was all the way outside. As a member of the State Assembly, he sponsored a bill called Not on Our Dime Bill to go after organizations, Zionist organizations, who fund in illegal settlements in the West Bank. So that's the kind of courage that he has, that he brought forth this piece of legislation, which of course has not yet moved in the state legislature, but the point sometimes is not to win, the point is to put it on the table, because no one has ever done that before. And when I started talking to people across the country about Zahran, people said, Sister Linda, we love you, we think you're really smart, but on this one, very naive. We can't believe that you think that this kid could be the mayor of New York City. I said, okay, that's fine. I know what I know, and I know what you don't know, but that's okay with me. My job is to tell you. But anyway, I am watching this race, and I would say more than just watching this race. We are about to make history for the entire Muslim American community. We are going to make history for the entire pro-Palestinian movement in this country. And as is said in a Frank Sinatra song, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. And so in New York, to be able to elect someone with the type of ideological kind of positioning as Zahran is unprecedented in a city like ours. We are the media capital of the world. We have some of the strongest right-wing Zionist organizations in the country. And the fact that somehow, some way, Zahran is poised, pretty well poised in this race right now. He's already 20 points ahead in a 4-way race, and inshallah, it stays a 4-way race. We want it to be a 4-way race. We love Eric Adams. We want him to stay. Please, Eric Adams, stand your ground, my friend. Don't let them push you out. This is democracy run. I tell them that all the time. I'm like, don't let them push you out. I was like, you a black brother. Why are they trying to push the black man out the race? Like, don't let them do that. So in a four race, and I just want to say this, that this is an example of where our community has impact. And one of the things that right now I'm a little more quiet because I'm on the quiet side of this race, but I'm going to tell you that once November 4th comes around, I will tell the story. The story is not just that it's random that Zahran ascended to this place. It is our Muslim American communities. And when they say young people, just know that a lot of the young people are from our community that we're doing the door knocking and that we're doing the organizing and building this kind of a power so that someone like Zahran could emerge from our communities. And I'll also say that it's Muslim money. The PACs that have supported Zahran, or a particular PAC that has supported Zahran, is probably over 80% of Muslim American donors in this country. High net donors, grassroots donors. And I want to make the point that the Unity and Justice Fund PAC, which is the CAIR Super PAC, was the largest institutional donor to the pro-Zahran PAC in New York. So that power of playing together and organizing together, because CAIR Super PAC could have said, we run our own independent expenditure. But they said, no, there's already an official, highly qualified PAC in New York that's supporting Zahran. We don't got to do it. We're just going to give them the resources to do that work. And I'm just going to say this last personal thing, because Zahra talked about the next 7 generations to come. Inshallah, many of you know this, but if you don't know, I'm going to tell you. Inshallah, in a few weeks, I'm going to become a grandmother. And my granddaughter is going to be a purebred New Yorker like me. And she's going to be born around Election Day. And when my granddaughter opens her eyes, she's going to be born in a city with the first Muslim American mayor. So this is not about you. It's not about you. It's not about your feelings. It's about what are you doing for the 7 generations to come. And I'll end in a political place like this. Sometimes our community, I don't know where we get this from, because it's not supposed to be nature to us. We want instant gratification. You want to win today. You want to win tomorrow. You want to see free Palestine tomorrow. This is not how it works, and it's never worked like that before. The question is, what are you willing to sacrifice for something that you may not experience in your lifetime? And that's something I don't see in our Muslim American communities. You want to see it in your lifetime. Of course we want to. We make dua that we see everything that we're fighting for in our lifetime. You don't think I want to see a free Palestine in my lifetime? But what motivates me is that my granddaughter is definitely going to see a free Palestine. And I'm going to have something to do with that. And we're going to shift politics in this country. And one day, we will no longer have to come to our Muslim American community and say, please vote for the lesser of 2 evils. One day, because of the work that we're all going to do together without ego, one day, inshallah, we're going to get another generation to go to the polls and say, you get to vote for someone who's pro-justice, who's pro-Palestine, who's pro-freedom for everybody. We're working towards the time to come where we don't have to do the lesser of 2 evils. But right now, sometimes that's what you got to do. And I know you don't like to do, but you got to do it. And lastly, I will say, because she said one race, but she's my friend, and she's going to let me say one more. This is also for this room as well. It's going to be, of course, people already kind of know, and it's already getting out in the world. Something that we have to do in politics sometimes is you got to go back into the ring. So you lose a match, that don't mean you lose the match and you walk away. You got to just go back into the field, get your training together, put your mind on right? And go get some better boxing gloves. Your coach may have been not that great, so you got to get another coach. You know what I mean? You got to do a lot of different things. And then you know what you do? You get back into the ring. And let me tell you, my friends, if I call you, you better pick up my call. Because I'm going back into a rematch with AIPAC in St. Louis. And we are going to put Cori Bush back in Congress. And that better be the goal of every single Muslim in this country. Because what I want to say is that the Muslim community didn't just walk away. We came back for a rematch and we won on the 2nd round.
A quick legal disclaimer. So she said,
Linda, time's up thing.
Oh no, but this is a legal disclaimer to protect CAIR. So Unity and Justice Fund is CAIR's endorsed super PAC. It's not CAIR super PAC, and it's your super PAC. It's the whole, it's not CAIR Action's super PAC. It's the
there's arrows, and we're all disconnected and connected.
So I just want to mention that because next week the Unity and Justice Fund is launching a major campaign for Mamdani round number 2. We want everyone to pay attention to that. So stay tuned. And this is considered all of your super PACs. It's the community's largest super PAC.
So
CAIR Action endorsed super PAC.
So we have to wrap up because Edward tried to take 5 minutes from us, and instead we took an extra 10. So we are well over time, but we blame it on the first panel at 8 a.m. Summer Lee, Dick Durbin's seat, Donovan McKinney, Zohran Mamdani,
Corey Bush.
and split your donations. Dr. Osama said something at the beginning. He said that he talks to people who are sometimes afraid to give and get involved because the FBI might show up at their door. Well, if you're a monthly donor to all of these organizations, including the C3 that I work for, CAIR, then if the FBI shows up at your door, don't worry about it. We got you, and we'll make them go away faster than you know what's happened. Thank you all for spending the morning with us. There's another session coming up soon.
Can we share that on their table is a one-pager that helps you understand what a C3, a C4, a PAC, a super PAC, and a corporation can
Take that
do?
paper.
Please make sure your local masjid and community centers take this and understand it.